Hello everyone, Mystery here, reporting live for SLOPTIDE News Network, your most trusted source for all things Darktide, and of course, Holiday Slop. Today brings hotfix number 84 to Darktide, and this is going to be, in Fat Shark's own words, the last hotfix of the year, probably as they wind down and everybody starts to head out on those holiday vacations. So very likely we will see the next major hotfix about a month from now. Previously, last year, it happened on January 12th, I want to say, from memory. And so there are some potentially lingering issues, though I don't think people will be too dissatisfied with them. Anyway, if you want to get into it with me, make certain you are subscribed to SLOPTIDE News, and by that I mean Mystery, and let's get underway. We're going to start here with the bug fixes, which is the vast majority of this hotfix. This is a very good bug fixing patch here. We got a lot of stuff that was on the docket, a lot of which I spoke about in my last video, and they actually nailed both of those, as well as they nailed the explosion detection. Fixed an issue with explosion hit detection, hitting players from further away than before. So yeah, this was drawing, I believe the way that it was explained to me is like, it was drawing a different geometry for the interactions between players and explosions, and so it could nick you from about a half a meter further away. So now all those barrels and explosives in the environment, such as the exploding little poxwalkers for the event, any flamer explosions, and of course those deadly bursters, those are nerfed back down to the regular reasonable standards that they were at. So this is a great fix. One big issue with this, though, is that it was not credited or attributed to the famous person who, helped them to identify that. Now we also have here an issue where players couldn't remove talent nodes that are when talents are in an invalid state. I was finding this as well. You could end up with a bugged talent tree on occasion. Had no idea it was triggering it, and I just had to remake the tree and start over. So good they fixed that. Fix an issue where Stim supply will lock you in an animation where you can't swap to melee or ranged. I have not gotten this to replicate just yet as of the hotfix, but hopefully this is also fixing the issue where sometimes Stim supply would not deploy correctly. I know I said in a previous SLOPTIDE that there was a fix to the deploying the Stim supply and it not dropping, and then you having to press it again. This was not all the way fixed. I think it was fixed for locational placement, but not the movement. Before it was like when you were sprinting and moving around, then it would refuse to be put down. This hopefully will fix those animation bugs and therefore get this thing dropped to the ground for good this time. TM. Fixed majority of weapon and ability overheat / peril explosion not working. So to be clear, guys, this is addressing several major issues, which is that there was no peril overload on the plasma gun on every staff except for the electrokinetic charge and the flame staff. Those are the culprits that were able to cast next to infinitely, or actually infinitely, because you couldn't overheat. You could shoot the plasma gun forever. You could shoot a void blast and void strike forever. Those things are now fixed, and that was the culprit behind the crazy frame rate loss that a lot of people are experiencing, especially related to the plasma gun. The plasma gun, for whatever reason, when those errors were happening, when you were increasing your heat on the plasma gun, that was what was sending bugs to the game, and it was sending it many times over and causing a bunch of lag and instability even for other players on the same team. And that is also what was going on with the peril gain for the staff. However, for some reason, whatever reason it is, the staff's errors were actually just being sent to your game directory. So if you went there and checked it out, you would see a massive error log full of every time that you gained peril and went over that cap, which is very strange. So who knows how this happened, but it seems like they have stabilized it, and therefore this should be fixing all those crazy frame rate issues that everyone was having. I can't speak to any other like general frame rate issues, but I have heard from SLOPTIDE News correspondent Zeno that the frame rate drops with these weapons are now fixed. An issue with the Boombringer missile rendered outside the model. I had only seen this in other people's footage so far. I don't know what causes it, but sometimes the missile, the actual RPG, was like hanging out below the tube itself. That's good they fixed that. Stub pistol fix, and then floating magazines, yada yada. And for PS5 players, they patch it so you can now chat again. I saw a bunch of people commenting that on my last video talking about those 2 major bugs, and I was going to raise that with them, but hey, here it is. They've got that issue fixed, so PS5 players can chat again and say all the valuable things that PlayStation players need to communicate. We've got, of course, cosmetic fixes. Let's you know, focus in here on the issue where the wrong blade ended up being used in the Assassin's Blade cosmetic weapon skin. It is now short again, as intended, as God intended for us all to have a short blade. Now, we come down here to additional changes. This is going to be some really crazy stuff here, guys. So we added some clearer information to the Stim tab info, or Stim lab info. That's good. Change dodge stats from the talent tree to also impact incoming range damage instead of just melee damage. Asterisk. What is this asterisk about? Well, this is where things get a little bit interesting, because it says, that's all for today. This is most likely the last hotfix we'll be doing this year as we slow down for the holidays. So if this is the last hotfix of the year and we have a month, well, guess what has now happened as a result of this change, of this specific change right here, these dodge stats impacting range as well. Well, now, I just had to pull this up on Reddit. Now you can do this. And this is on every class, apparently, except for Ogren, who has a lower dodge. So you can just dodge all range attack just by spamming dodge, even with, as you can see there, all dodge count is depleted. So yeah, there's some issues here, I would say, and that means dodging just got a huge turbo buff for pretty much all the humanoid classes, and that's what they say here. Experimental changes meant for mitigating the issue where dodge distance buffs negatively impacts time spent in dodging has resulted in unintended consequences that make dodging too effective. Fixes being investigated on both this and the original issue and will be delivered in the next hotfix. So next hotfix, you know, might be a month away, or it might be like tomorrow or something. Maybe they can patch another one out because it's only Monday of the week. So if this is you know, this does seem like a pretty pressing issue that is very much game breaking, the ability to perma dodge all range attacks if you just spam it hard enough. That seems pretty bad. So yeah, this was what they were doing here, is because I spoke about in a previous talking about bugs on the Hive Scum, that the dodge time of the talent, I think it's Nimble or whatever it is, where it increases your dodge distance by 25% and your dodge duration by 50. It was actually not increasing that duration, so they just went ahead and slapped a bunch of extra duration on those dodges, and that actually ended up applying to all classes, and then it gives you this buffer window where you can easily put a dodge inside that window so you can just keep dodging. And I don't actually know, I imagine this probably also applies to melee, but it's going to be harder to show because the attacks don't come out as quickly. So yeah, there you go, guys. That is everything for this hotfix. Now, this also means, remember, mod users do run your Darktide batch file again and get everything ready to go once again. I think everything is relatively updated. I'll be putting out a video later today for those of you who are still struggling to get your mods up and running as of this quarterly update, and I'm going to try to make it perennial so we can just post this every quarter. And I hope you guys are feeling well. Have a good one, and Mr. E out. Bye-bye.